he pronounced his prophecy against me. Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. For the next few minutes, with your prayer, I want to talk about a conspiracy against the committee.
It's all right.
A conspiracy against the committee. You gonna pray with me?
Yeah, Lord.
Oh, yes.
Constant vigilance, especially in the 21st century, is a costly endeavor.
Yes, Lord.
To remain true and committed to your calling is going to require that you recognize that the enemy of our soul is never far away.
You're right. You're right.
You feel right.
In fact, wherever there is good, evil is always present.
Yes, it is.
It would be naive to think that you can stand your committed ground without opposition.
Right. You're right. Cannot.
Be naive.
Yeah.
And naivete seems to have a broad base today, particularly when it comes to the things of God.
Amen. That's so true.
Tell it.
And especially when it comes to the church.
Yeah.
But you know, like I know, that everybody that sings I love Jesus don't love Jesus. And you either.
I know you're right. I know you're right.
In fact, you ought to recognize that as a very real reality in our walk with the Lord. Now, I was reading this week. I asked the Lord. I said, well, you know, some folks, when you give a topic, a message, then their mind starts running like, who is he talking about? You know, I've been around us long enough to know how we start trying to read between the lines rather than just reading the text.
Tell it.
Right.
Just let the text speak for itself. You ain't got to be trying to hook nothing up. Trying to see what nuances I'm going to use to say, well, he's talking about brother, sister, so-and-so. They always plotting, you know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No. Let the text speak for itself. Now, if you're not committed, amen, then there's no conspiracy.
That's right.
This topic is for those who are committed to Christ. Committed to his word, to his will, to his way. Those who have sold out to God. Make no mistake about it. They know where they stand with God.
That's right.
And the enemy knows where you stand with God. You always got some little plot going, some little scheme, some little trap. Anything to trip you up in your commitment.
You're right.
I say to you today, my brothers and sisters, that now more than ever, you need to understand and why it's so important that your discernment and your observation, amen, are so important,
Lord,
to you moving forward in the thing that the Lord has called you to do.
That's right.
If you're not aware, if you're not alert, amen, you could end up as a casualty, amen, not discerning enough and not willing, amen, to have your heart in tune with your surroundings and miss out on the blessing that the Lord has in store.
Lord.
In other words, you can easily be moved off of your wall of commitment. Sometimes people move off the wall or get knocked off the wall, and some never return. You need to recognize this morning that there's a conspiracy involved. Amen. The enemy don't want you to succeed. Amen. He doesn't want harmony in the church. He doesn't want us to work together. Church is more prone, amen, at times to quarrel rather than cooperate. It moves us, causes us to vacillate from our commitment. And you know, like I know, amen, many people, they can talk more commitment than they can do. But I said to you in the earlier statement that, listen, commitment is going to cost you something. You're going to stay upon your wall of faith. You're going to stay committed to what the Lord has placed you for service. It's going to cost you.
That's right. Amen.
More than you and I can comprehend. It's there. It has always been there. And when we recognize that in no uncertain terms, the Lord in this text and others will remind us, listen, if you stay true to your calling and true to me, I'll see to it that you have success. And not only success, good success. Now that's a proposition that I don't, amen, like to turn down. He didn't only say I was going to be successful, I'm going to have good success. There's an attachment to it. In other words, God says, I'm going to sprinkle some more blessings on what you're doing and laying your hands to on my behalf. It brings about soundness. When you're committed, it brings about security. It brings about steadfastness. It causes you to be staunch, stable, and strong. Why? Because you know that if you're in the way, if you're walking in his way. Earlier, in the early centuries of the church, they were called people of the way. They walk in the way. They live in the way. They live by, amen, contrast from a contrary way. But they were there, and they trekked along, and they moved according to God's, amen, instructions and his direction. Have we got a witness here? I said it's God's direction. And listen, if you just follow the directions, then directly, amen, you will be directed to follow the right direction. Y'all listening? I'm just trying to wake you up right there. Amen. What he's reminding us here, and I want to share these principles with us this morning. It's important that you understand you're committed today, because I tell you, one of the biggest commitments in the church today is for those to remain uncommitted.
All right.
You didn't hear me.
All right.
The biggest commitment is for those to remain uncommitted.
Lord.
You watch where you stand with God. You look at your deportment. You look at your service. You look at how you're moving and migrating, and are you maturing? Does it mean anything to be called a servant leader? How much influence has the Lord allowed you to have? And if he's giving it to you, what are you doing with it? Are you a good steward with it? Or are you just popping your lapel? Amen. Or are you just peacocking around and not understanding that you're causing some to rise and fall? Amen. At your word and at your movement. Sometimes we give more credence to folk than we do to God. Amen. Amen. God has so purposed leaders, amen, in his church and for his assembly. He knows that. But like Nehemiah, he recognized that, listen, you got to be aware of what's going on around you. Amen. As one who is progressing in the things of God. Y'all still with me? So you recognize that Ezra and Nehemiah, amen, Ezra, the whole writings of Ezra and Nehemiah, they are a unit together. In other words, Ezra is part 1, Nehemiah part 2. And they are a harmonious presentation. When you recognize Nehemiah moving in God, he's not a priest per se. He's really a civil engineer. He's the one been given direct orders by God on how to get the wall built around the temple. Nehemiah, he's recognizing, and in that event, and from God's instructions, how many know when God gives you instruction doesn't mean that it's going to be a smooth sailing for you to complete it. When God gives you and I an assignment, you better know that it's not going to be an easy road, amen, or beds of ease for you, amen, to achieve what God has already established for you to achieve. Rather duplicitous. It's kind of complex, isn't it? Why would God give that to me and then not make it easy for me to accomplish? Why would God give me a title and not have anybody shooting at me? Why would God give me a job and don't have anybody that he has placed in my sphere of influence don't get upset or don't have something negative to say? God says, I know how to get the best out of you. Sometimes I'll put those, that are seemingly unknown to you, didn't even have that within them, and I'll bring it out of them to bring the best out of you. The civil engineer Nehemiah met that opposition. He met it in more ways than you can imagine. He met it in intimidation. He met it. He met the opposition by intimidation, by blackmail. A false prophet came his way. And there were those who were always plotting, trying to make sure that Nehemiah came down off the wall. And there was listen, you think those other ways, amen, would have been enough, but God even allowed a false prophet to show up and pronounce a false prophecy against Nehemiah. Trying to get him to bite the bad bait. Nehemiah recognized, I am not falling, folks. Are y'all with me here? I tell you this morning, the enemy of our soul is always there. He's plotting. He's always looking to do something to trip us up. Anything to get you off your commitment. Anything to divert your focus and faithful attention to God. Did you hear what I said? If he needs to use the rain, he'll use the rain. Amen. Oh, he jumped all over a whole bunch of folk this morning. You ain't going nowhere today. Oh, Lord, there's a whole congregation of Bedside Baptists. They singing the hymn and don't even know it. I shall not be moved. I'm like a tree planted by the river of the Lord. Amen. And had it not been for the grace of God, you or someone else you know would have been singing in the chorus. Because the enemy is at work in the life of the believer. C.S. Lewis says there's a danger about believers who don't understand the full aspects of the enemy. One is that we totally ignore him, and the other is we develop an unhealthy idea of who he is. Y'all with me? So I roll on through this text this morning just to hopefully bring us back into focus. Bring us a little encouragement along the way of your service and your commitment, what God has called you to. Amen. Don't worry about anybody else. Just know what He's called you to. Stay in your lane. Our problem is we look to the side. We look off too much. The track coach used to tell us, amen, now, and there's no way you can have a chance at winning this race